Have you not listened to the show at all?
And that's the cold open, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is Didn't Read It, the podcast that listens to itself sometimes. I'm your host, William Albritton. Books. Books. Books.
I've been the victim of a coup. I have a whole formula. What have you done?
Your formula's chemist. This is the Anarchist's Cookbook.
Hello, and welcome to Didn't Read It. I'm clinging to normalcy with the last ounces of my strength.
Oh, I'm not sorry at all.
Hi, I guess.
Hello. Here we are, aren't we?
I'm your host, usually Grace Todd, confused, unsure of where this will take us. And with me today is former friend of the podcast.
I'm sorry to tell all of the audience that the spot of nemesis of the podcast has been filled. Hello.
Clearly.
I'm here.
Nemesis and also, God, what's the word I'm looking for? The person who commits a coup is a...
revolutionary. Together we will bring forth the new horizon.
Nemesis and petty tyrant. William Albritton. Hi.
Everybody gets plots of land if you join my side. Together the podcast will be ours.
I feel like you're going to make a lot of promises and then it's going to descend into petty backbiting and...
What? No.
And famine.
No revolution has ever gone that direction. Don't read the books.
Revolutions never end in famine.
Yeah. Especially the listeners of your podcast will know every revolution turned out perfect.
When you're staging your coup and you have your coup campaign signs, because obviously they have those, it'll be, William Albritton for petty tyrant. There definitely won't be a famine this time.
That's right.
William.
Grace.
What are we here for?
Today we are going to talk about Violet Paget, aka Vernon Lee, and one of her lovely stories. She wrote very many. They were modernly lauded as bits of feminist literature, and as inspirations for famous racists like H.P. Lovecraft, for their good work, not the racism part.
Sure.
She wasn't, racist. She was a very cool, spooky author. Although, no, I'm kidding.
What every cranky lesbian author dreams of is being the inspiration for famous racists.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. David Duke's library is full of feminist authors.
Wow.
Oh.
This is going so well. I want you all to know that because he is the one who is allegedly informing us about something today, I put William in my usual seat, the driver's seat, if you will, and he looks so pleased with himself.
I'm at the steering wheel, baby. We ain't turning left.
And I am sitting helplessly in the guest chair where I can't see the screens. I have no idea what he's doing.
All right, should we actually start recording now?
What?
How does it feel? How does it feel, Grace? How does it feel to lose touch with your control?
I hate you. You are never coming back on this show.
I take my role as nemesis of the podcast very seriously. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry. Let's get this back on track.
Vernon Lee.
Vernon Lee, fantastic author. Admittedly, I know very little about Vernon Lee other than every time I've asked people how to expand on my love for Lovecraftian style stories, but from less racist people. Lee has been like top of the list for here's somebody who influenced your famous racist. And I'm like, great, awesome.
Yeah. So very quick, both for you and the listeners, one of the things about Vernon Lee is that I always refer to her as Vernon Lee because it was not just a pen name. It was the name that she actively preferred people call her in life. There is a non-zero chance that had she been born later, Vernon Lee may have self-identified as somewhere on the trans spectrum. We can't know. I can't say that with any confidence. But she did actively prefer to be called Vernon Lee and dressed primarily in men's clothing.
Yeah, Wikipedia says she always dressed à la garçon.
Yes, indeed.
Can't tell you what that means, but...
À la garçon, it just means in the fashion of a boy, just in French.
Oh. I mixed up Garçon and Gaston, and I'm thinking they named the dude from Beauty and the Beast Man. His name is just Man in French. Like,
no one dresses likely, no one writes ghost likely, no one wears a cane and picks fights with Henry James like Vernon Lee. As a specimen, she is intimidating. Vernon Lee.
Hey! Incredible. Oh, that was great. Well done. I have zero info about why she wanted to write spooky stories.
So I will say, it is spooky season. We are doing one-off fun little ghost stories, and I'm very excited to do this one and to hear about it, which I have not read. At some point, we are going to do a bigger, longer, deeper dive into Vernon Lee. There's a story of hers called Oak of Oakhurst that I am obsessed with, that has all kinds of like wild gender stuff happening and also is like about the fall of the aristocracy. It's great. That being said, it's been a while since I brushed up on my Vernon Lee. I get the impression that she was one of those young ladies who was just of a spookier, more serious, morbid bent and got very frustrated with how much people gave her a hard time for being spookier, seriouser, and of a morbid bent. I also know that one of her first big published works was like a comprehensive history of either Italy or Italian art, something like that.
She was an authority on Italian Renaissance.
She was a scholar first and foremost, which I think lends itself to a certain spookiness. If you spend all your time surrounded by the thoughts of the dead, your mind invariably wanders to ghosts.
What a beautiful segue towards the story that we're going to talk about today, which is about a dusty old historian who becomes obsessed with a ghost.
Well, look at that.
Would you look at that? It's almost like we planned it.
Tell me a story, buddy.
We didn't. This couldn't be less scripted if I tried. What we are talking about today is an entry in a collection of short stories that she just called Hauntings.
Ooh.
Yes.
Good title.
Most of them are written in vaguely first person from various people across time. But today we are coming in from the viewpoint of Mr. You ready for this name?
Oh God, I'm excited.
Spiridion Trepka.
What?
This is entries from the diary of Dr. Spiridion Trepka.
Spiridion?
Spiridion.
Is that even a real name?
No. He's Italian. Of course he's... He's actually, this is the best part, he's Polish, but considers himself German.
Sure.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of
absolutely.
course.
I was a little worried when you said he was Italian because I'm beginning to be faintly concerned that this is turning into a podcast that's bigoted against Italians because they get casually insulted in English literature so much and so often. And they've already been the butt of the joke in one of the stories we've done for Halloween.
Lord help me hold my tongue. Father preserve me. I will not badmouth the Italians today. I won't do it. I won't do it.
I want to be clear that Didn't Read It, the podcast, has nothing against the beautiful country of Italy or the Italian people. And Vernon Lee liked Italians.
She was an authority on Italian Renaissance.
She loved the Italians.
She wrote 2 works that dealt with it explicitly.
I just feel like Italians just keep catching strays on this podcast for no reason.
They're always catching strays, and they're all deserved.
All right, back to Spiridion.
Okay, right. Spiridion. So, oh God, he's such a dork, dude.
Nerd.
So part of this honestly might be a little bit autobiographical.
Oh, interesting.
Like leaning into Vernon's like obsession with old Italian stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I think she emphasizes that on purpose.
Okay.
So the beginning of this is, I had longed these years and years to be in Italy, to come face to face with the past. And was this Italy? Was this the past? And it's like, dog, come on.
Oh, that's a great line, though.
It is. Like, it is.
Was this Italy? Was this the past?
And he being Spiridion Trepka now, spends the first, 3 or 4 diary entries being like, I love being here. It's gorgeous. We're up in the mountains in Italy. This is amazing. This is the perfect setting for me to do my dumbass scholar work.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to talk to the locals because I don't want to dispel the illusion.
I just want them to be props,
He's like,
not people.
Yeah.
This is giving Rappaccini's daughter. The beginning, Rappaccini's daughter opens with a young student moving to a different city in Italy, but it's still very much exoticized because it was written by Nathaniel Hawthorne, American. I love how many stories open with like, I'm in Italy and it's beautiful as long as I don't talk to anyone.
Yeah, he's going, let's see. So he describes how beautiful the place he's staying is, and then he goes, then there are the people, dark, bushy-bearded men, riding about like brigands.
No.
Wrapped in green-lined cloaks upon their shaggy pack mules, or loitering about, great, brawny, low-headed youngsters like the party-colored bravos in Signorelli's frescoes. Dude.
Now, do you think, are we supposed to hold this against Spiridion, or do you see what I'm saying? Is there a certain is there a gap between what the narrator is saying and what we are meant to believe? Is there any dramatic irony there, or?
I can't tell. Honestly.
Fair.
Every time I read this story, I think, holy shit, this guy sucks.
Well, okay, so you at least are like, boo, Spiridion.
Like,
boo.
Boo. You're boring and you suck. He's a giant nerd.
Okay.
And I want nothing more than to stuff him in an old Italian locker.
I never thought of you as the kind of person who would have punched other kids in the stomach for carrying too many books around in high school, but here we are.
There's like 1 or 2 people alive who might somehow listen to this and go, well, duh. To the 2 of you, I'm sorry.
You were a bully in high school and now you're a bully on my podcast.
It was a long time ago, okay? I haven't changed.
I have not matured in the slightest.
Oh, I wish you nothing but the best, people. Okay.
So back to Spiridion, the nerd.
Yeah, Spiridion's a big old nerd. He's being put up by this lovely working class man who has 3 beautiful sisters who like to spin thread. I'm sure there's no symbolism or imagery there.
None whatsoever.
Nothing to read into that.
Every Italian man has a trio of beautiful women that cohabitate with him and seduce random foreigners. It's a law, I think.
Yeah. They all huddle by the fireplace, hooded with a big pair of scissors and a golden thread, and and they're just doing some sewing. You know?
Yep, very casual.
Yeah. It's funny how, you know what? We'll save that for later.
Oh, okay.
We'll get into the inspiration later.
We'll put a pin in it.
Stick a pin in that, and then take some red yarn, and we're gonna get very conspiratorial here. So Spiridion is in Italy to do research for his 1889 equivalent of a PhD.
Okay.
He is a historian. He's written papers about Italian history. He's here to research a particular family, I want to say. He spends all of his time in this dusty old archive and comes across a bunch of family history about the particular chateau that he's staying in. And that is when he first finds mention of a particular woman, Medea de Carpi.
Ooh, okay.
She reminds him of, Bianca Capello, Lucrezia Borgia type.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah, one of those. She was born in 1556, affianced for the first time at the age of 12.
Oh.
For the second time at the age of 14.
Oh.
For the third time, also at the age of 14.
Wait, what happened to all of the men she was engaged to?
Let's see. The first one, the family kind of sucked, and their social standing was reduced, so they just called the engagement off because they sucked. The second one didn't match the family's ambition, So they called that one declared null by some, judicial pretext. The third one, she actually married.
Okay. Well, nothing bad is happening to these men. It's just underlining the extent to which she is a pawn for her family's ambitions.
Yeah.
Got it.
Family's very ambitious, and they're using their beautiful, wily daughter. She's 12. That's so gross.
Their poor daughter.
Their self-described poor victim of a daughter.
Who will grow up to be beautiful.
Yes, thank you.
Once she's an adult.
Yeah. As a bargaining chip to gain, status, as you do in 16th century Italy. But this third guy is the Duke of Stimigliano by the name of Pierluigi Orsini.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We got some very Italian names. I can see the chest hair from here. So the second dude that she was betrothed to kidnapped her.
Oh.
On the way to her marriage to the third dude she was betrothed to.
Okay.
Because he was so madly in love.
The guy she was actually supposed to marry was
the Duke of Stimigliano.
But on her way to her wedding, she's kidnapped.
On the way to her wedding, she is kidnapped by Giovan Francesco Pico.
Oh no. That seems bad.
Yeah, the Picos and the Orsinis have some beef, but it's completely unrelated to this woman. So Mr. Pico kidnaps her on the way to her wedding because he's so madly in love with her. 14-year-old, by the way.
Great.
He's captured and killed, and she marries the Duke, like she's supposed to.
Oh.
Because everyone's like, what the fuck?
Well, that was very efficient.
You can't just do that. They're married for 2 years. And then, as with all of these stories, he dies.
Sure.
He is stabbed to death by one of his grooms in his castle.
Oh.
2 years later.
That's a bummer. Do we know why?
Nope.
Okay.
She was married to this dude for a while, the Duke. I believe they had a kid. She was 19 at this point.
Okay.
During their happy marriage with the kid, this dude, Pierluigi Orsini, is stabbed to death by one of his grooms.
Oh, dear.
He cites something about being madly in love with, what's her name?
Oh. Uh-oh.
There's a lot of intrigue. So it gets a little hot for our gal Medea. She flees to another Duke, Duke Guido Alfonso II.
So wait, so people are a little concerned about the circumstances surrounding this stabbing, and she's like, you know what, I need another rich man to hide behind.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay.
She's smart. She knows what's up. So she goes and flees to this other Duke, married, by the way, happily, by all accounts. Very. He's rich. He's successful. They have a couple kids.
You love to see it.
This new dude is like, yeah, of course I'll take you in. He's captivated immediately. Starts ignoring his wife. The wife is eventually murdered.
Huh.
Found dead.
How could that have happened?
2 days after the death of his wife, marries this gal that he's putting up.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, so we're starting to see the pattern, right? This Duke is so in love with her that he promises the duchy to her son by the other guy.
Oh.
So she rolls up to this Duke, says, oh, please help me. My son and I are refugees. Somebody died and people are blaming us for it. He's like, yeah, I'll put you up. I love you so much. My wife sucks. Why don't I, bequeath my duchy to your son?
Does he have his own children?
Not clear.
Fair enough. The point is that she's clearly very good at getting people to do what she would like them to do.
Yeah. Quickly after he signs his new will, he is found stabbed in the chest in his bed.
Got a lot of stabbings happening here.
And her son by this other man, Bartolomeo, the son's name is Bartolomeo, and she signed as Duchess Regent. And this guard captain who helped her, perform this coup, are sworn into power. Although the guard captain is found stabbed to death in his bed.
This is getting to be a statistically improbable number of stabbings specifically.
You'd made me think that.
It's like, Medea, I noticed you have like a crazy knife collection. She's like, no reason.
So that's one of the parts that I like about this story. It's never clear that she is doing any of the killings.
Oh, sure.
Everyone else does it for her because they're so in love with her.
Sure. And I guess I'm forgetting that like Italian dudes of this era apparently just are stabbing each other constantly.
You might say that a common theme in Italy itself, Italian literature, particularly maybe the Renaissance, is an overwhelming of emotion.
Sure.
You might say that. Maybe put a pin in that. We'll come back to that later.
Maybe I should put a knife in it?
Put a knife in it. Put a knife in its chest. And we'll come to it later. Connect some red yarn.
Put a note on someone's chest and then pin the note there with a small, sharp dagger. Okay.
So just take your big poster board that says overwhelming emotion, right? Right, as a theme of Italian media, and just stab it onto your cork board, right?
Got it.
Okay. Lots of blood. Amazing. Great. I don't know how I'm going to host this podcast by myself now that my co-host, normally host, is dead, but it's fine. So, unfortunately, this last Duke, Mr. Guidalfonso, has a brother who is not as stupid. Yes, but that's not important.
Okay.
He's a priest.
Oh.
Yes, he's gay. Yes, he's a priest, and he's slightly smarter than all these other men.
And also immune to her charms.
And he sees all this happen, sees her take power, and goes and runs off to the Pope to plead for help. Because that's what you do when a strange woman beguiles your brother into bequeathing your ancestral home to some random lady's kid. Eventually, he curries enough favor with the Pope's men and other houses that he's able to amass a small fighting force and basically besieges his ancestral home.
We're like going to war about it.
It's some Borgia shit.
I mean, I guess this is like the Italian city-state period.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're out drinking with the bros. You're having a nice time. Somebody commits a party foul. Next thing you know, you have both independently raised armies and are besieging each other's houses.
Exactly.
Heard.
Every 100 square miles, there's a new little keep on a hill with a bunch of peasants, and you got to defend that shit with your life and honor. And they're constantly bickering.
This really gives a lie to the whole, like, you know, the right wing has that whole thing that's like an armed society is a polite society. And it's like, no. Like, these people were literally raising armies at the drop of a hat.
Oh my god. I'm just imagining all of the shootouts that would happen in, like, random Nebraska homesteads.
Two men start arguing over a parking space, and next thing you know, there's like 12 men on either side riding in on full war horses with pikes.
Oh, amazing.
So she's under siege.
Yep. She's under siege.
Because after all of these murders, she finally encountered exactly one man who was not heterosexual. Even if that's not textual, this is what I'm calling it.
Yeah. One single gay man who doesn't give a shit that she's gorgeous and kind of weird looking. So she's completely surrounded, but refuses to, like, give up. So with zero money, zero allies, it's fascinating how well she keeps her aggressors at bay. A bunch of men are found stabbed to death in the chest during the fighting, but we won't talk about that part.
Constant stabbings. This is now a genuinely slapstick number of stabbings.
Yeah. It's this entire story. Spoiler, by the way. This entire story is men stabbing each other to death on behalf of this woman.
It's where we veered out of horror and into horror comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, great.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, it's amazing. I can only imagine Vernon chuckling heartily every line. He's like, ooh, what if she stabs another? What if another man stabs this guy? What an idiot.
Imagining Vernon Lee, like, reading the manuscripts to her friends and then be like, and then this guy got stabbed. And they're like, just like cackling. Like, this is hilarious. And her friends are like, Vernon, that's horrifying.
No, all of her straight friends are like, Vernon, that's literally how it is. And Vernon's like, damn, can't relate. Idiot.
Sucks
Date
to
women.
suck.
Nerd.
Look at me. I'm wearing a waistcoat. I have a cane. This is great. Living my best life.
Oh, yeah.
I'm picking fights with Henry James.
Maybe this is even more autobiographical than I thought, and she's just been out here murdering men to pursue women that she wanted.
Okay.
You know?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
back to the actual story.
Well, not even the actual story. Back to the story within the story.
Sure.
This is fake history in a short story written about a man who sees a ghost.
Right.
Okay.
We're not even at the ghost yet.
So eventually the siege is won. She's put up in a wing of the estate somewhere.
Ooh, do they like wall her up alive?
No, not quite. Not
bummer.
quite. And she keeps requesting to have an audience with the man who bested her, and he says, absolutely not. I'm not looking at you.
He's like, bitch, I know better than that.
Uh-huh.
Do you think I'm stupid?
Uh-huh. It is said that she haughtily requested to see the new duke, but that he shook his head, and in his priest's fashion quoted a verse about Ulysses and the Sirens. We're going to put a pin in Ulysses and the Sirens and add that to our wall with a red yarn of string connecting to both overwhelming Italian emotion and also, what was our first one?
The three lovely women and their thread.
Yes.
It's definitely not symbolic at all.
The daughter fates and their thread. We're gonna attach some red yarn between those three things.
And stab it into our corpse.
And it is remarkable that he persistently refused to see her, abruptly leaving his chamber one day that she had entered it by stealth. So this dude not only is like, no, I won't see you, she tries to sneak in to, like, Medusa head his ass, and he goes, no, I'm looking.
Can't catch me.
Yeah, he gets out of there. After a few months of this living situation, they uncover a conspiracy to murder him. There's another guy who is caught proclaiming his love for her, who tries to stab him. It's a whole thing. Eventually, the priest wises up, sends her to a convent, and then sends 2 nuns to kill her because she continues to cause problems. She mailed a picture of herself and a letter to a dude in his court to try to get this man to assassinate Robert, the priest, and almost succeeded. It's the equivalent of, like, sending a picture of your tits to some guy to be like, hey, bestie, this man is coming after me. Can you shoot him? And the guy's like, yeah, of course. Like what?
I mean, there are 100% men on the internet who would attempt to commit homicide if you sent them enough pictures of your boobs.
So, absolutely baffling. The little amounts of exposure to this woman these men can experience and still do her whims.
The allure that she has borders on being, or maybe just is, supernatural or witchcraft-like.
You might say.
You
might say. Ooh. Let's put a pin in that one and connect some red yarn to Ulysses and the Fates.
We got a lot of knives in this corpse at this point.
Well, my goal by the end of this is that our listeners have constructed a Charlie Day-esque corkboard of red yarn and are pointing to it frantically.
Sure. Cigarette optional.
Not optional. Don't care if you don't smoke. Just put a cigarette in your mouth. You'll feel cooler. Okay. She's dead.
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
So the nuns succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
So this woman's Achilles heel was anyone who wasn't a straight man.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
She dies.
That's Medea.
Yes, Medea de Carpi.
Medea. That's the story of Medea.
Medea de Carpi. She dies at 27 in 1582.
She's in the 27 club.
Yeah. I had that written down, that she is in the 27 club. Isn't that fascinating?
What a bad bitch.
What a bad bitch.
Wait, how many people did she canonically kill? What was that, like 10?
So the first man she was betrothed to survived. He got out fine. So she was betrothed to number 2. Mm-hmm. He kidnapped her. He died.
Right.
She was married to number 3.
Yeah.
They had the kid together.
He died.
She went begging to number 4, who put her up and then killed his wife to marry her. He died.
Right. And so then the wife too.
Sure. Yep. The wife is 4 deaths.
And then there's what, like 2 other people who try to help her and die in the attempt?
Yep. The guard captain, and this poor guy that she sends her portrait to.
That's 6 people. She killed 6 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the age of 27.
It's pretty impressive.
That is stick-to-itiveness.
That's stick-to-itiveness.
That is what happens when you rise and grind.
That's dedication, baby.
That is stab-maxing. It's time to wake up and get this dead.
She's absolutely succubus mogging on all these. Oh, boy. Not to mention all the people that died during this siege.
Oh, sure.
So, you know.
But, you know, they happen off stage, so they don't really count.
Yeah, sure.
What's a few peasants?
So back to Spiridion.
Yeah. What about our boy?
Our darling boy Spiridion.
My child.
So Mr. Spiridion uncovers a whole family history of this woman.
Okay.
Right? And he's like, well, this is interesting.
He's
is
like,
cool.
Finally, the subject for my dissertation.
Yeah. Literally, the next diary entry is, I have for some time been hunting for portraits of the Duchess Medea.
This seems like a bad idea.
And it's like, brother, did you learn nothing?
Okay, see, now here's the thing. And this is not a flex. In fact, this is a cell phone. You have not been to grad school. But the thing is that if you're writing your dissertation and you find a gap in the literature that you can fill, all sense is just going to fly right out the fucking window. You are not planning. You are not thinking. You have no capacity for self-preservation anymore. You are just going to try and you're going to lick the poisonous manuscript. You are going to resurrect smallpox by accident from an ancient medical textbook. And you are going to try and find the portrait of the cursed broad who murdered a bunch of people.
And find them he does. Mm-hmm. Most of them, I imagine, must have been destroyed, he says, perhaps by Duke Robert II's fear, lest even after her death, this terrible beauty should play him a trick. 3 or 4 I have, however, been able to find. One, a miniature in the archives, said to be that which she sent to poor Principal degli Ordelaffi in order to turn his head. That's the dude who was going to conspire to kill. Yeah.
The one she was sexting?
Literally the sext. He found the sext portrait. Like the actual one.
Again, that is a grad student's like wet dream.
And he's like, this is smart, right? This is like a good idea to go looking for this and find it and stare at it.
It is a truth widely acknowledged that academics have literally no sense of self-preservation. It's just who they are. None.
This whole story could have been avoided if this man was stuffed in a locker exactly one time. So,
are you implying that like the great nerds versus jocks rivalry is some kind of natural force, predator prey, like the ecosystem has to stay healthy?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's because nerds have no sense of self-preservation, but jocks can't add.
The balance must be maintained. Math must be done, but the nerds must be protected from themselves.
Someone has to build bridges, but someone also has to emotionally wound the kind of people who build bridges enough that when they inevitably open some kind of cavern while they're building the bridge that like whispers to them, they don't have the self-confidence to go inside of it.
Get in the locker. You're not following the whispers. You're not following.
I'm just imagining like little handwritten signs in all of the world's oldest and spookiest libraries that are just like, remember, don't follow the whispers. Don't do it.
Remember to take a break every 10 minutes to write down your own name. Oh my God. Incredible. So.
Spiridion.
Oh, our guy Spiridion. Our poor lost soul. He finds a piece of her handwriting.
Oh no.
And he becomes utterly obsessed. He spends all his time researching in the archives, looking for more pieces of her handwriting, and he thinks about her all the time.
Oh dear.
He gets just like a small note taped to his door, and he thinks his landlord's playing a trick on him, right? Because it's written in exactly the same handwriting as he found that sample of our gal Medea's handwriting in her letters.
Oh no.
The note he finds says, "To Spiridion, a person who knows the interest you bear her will be at the church of San Giovanni Decollato this evening at 9. Look out in the left aisle for a lady wearing a black mantle and holding a rose."
Oh no.
By this time, I understood that I was the object of a conspiracy, the victim of a hoax. So he thinks his landlord's playing a trick on him, right?
Are the jocks bullying me again?
No jock was smart enough to put together this ghost hoax. Nice, we got there. The church is all boarded up.
That seems ominous.
You'd think, but as we've covered, nerds have no sense of self-preservation.
This is true. He didn't get punched in the stomach enough.
All was dark and in complete silence. Suddenly there came again a faint gust of organ and voices. Ooh. I listened. It clearly came from the other lane, the one on the right-hand side. Was there perhaps another door there?
Ooh.
Then we get, the inside of the church, full of people, ablaze in lights. They're there for like a whole service.
Where did the people come from?
Well, he accidentally brushes by somebody and passes through them and feels a little clammy.
It's ghosts.
There's a bunch of ghosts in the church.
Church ghosts.
There's a bunch of ghosts in the church.
I didn't think you were supposed to be able to have church ghosts.
There's church ghosts. And every time he passes by this particular church after that, he hears organ music.
Oh.
Even though the church is abandoned, nobody's been there for however many years.
Church ghosts in the ghost church.
Yeah. He gets a real letter this time. Not just a note, but a letter.
Oh.
In the same handwriting, it says, "To Spiridion, let thy courage be equal to thy love, and thy love shall be rewarded. On the night preceding Christmas, take a hatchet and saw, cut boldly into the body of the bronze rider who stands in the corte, on the left side near the waist. Saw open the body, and within it thou wilt find the silver effigy of a winged genius. Take it out, hack it into 100 pieces, and fling them in all directions, so that the winds may sweep them away. That night she whom thou lovest will come to reward thy fidelity."
Wait, so she's telling him to destroy a random statue?
Uh-huh.
At this point, is he like, it's definitely her, and this is definitely real, or...
Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay. Good.
Not only is he like, it's definitely her and this is definitely real, he's like, yeah, this is what I was made for.
Yeah, ghost sex.
So it is true, I was reserved for something wonderful in this world. Like, come on, brother.
Oh, buddy, no. Oh, no. I mean, look, I know I say this on this show a lot, but like, genuinely, who among us does not sometimes, in our heart of hearts, think something's gonna happen someday?
Yeah, but that something is supposed to be like a giant plant that eats people. Not ghosts telling you to chop up infrastructure.
I like how you didn't go with like realistic scenario. You were like just different horror story scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I keep it all straight in my head. Those are the same thing.
This is why
To me.
work-life balance is so important for academics.
No, actually, the Little House of Horrors was real and happened.
I meant Spiridion. If he got out of the stacks sometimes, if he just like went and had a pint with some friends, took a break, took a nice walk, he wouldn't be so desperately lonely and afraid of academic failure that he would wind up getting seduced by a witch ghost.
Yeah, the worst part is he goes on many walks. And on every single one of his walks, he's like, wow, Italy's so beautiful. I wish I were walking with this f***ing dead woman that I've discovered.
What about real human women, Spiridion?
Like, come on, guy. I want to say there's a line or two where his landlord tries to set him up with someone, and by all accounts, she's, like, desirable and you know, a great partner. And he's like, she just doesn't measure up to this dead lady I discovered.
Oh, my God.
So, you understand my complete lack of empathy for this man.
My anime girlfriend is a 32 quadruple H, and you appear to be a 36B.
No.
And so I'm sorry, but you just don't measure up.
Not the Weeb Spiridion fan. No, dude. You know it's been written somewhere. And if it hasn't, someone's going to. What have you done? This is your fault. Anyway, I'm trying to tell a story here.
Yeah, ma'am. You are.
So he writes a bunch of hurried passages about how he's prepared his hammer and saw. And, you know, it's the day before Christmas. He's planning it all out. Landlord and his 3 daughters are asleep. He slips out, and there's nobody in the streets, except at one point he thinks he sees somebody out of the corner of his eye, like walking next to him. And the guy gets way too close, and he like looks towards the figure, but there's nobody there. And then out of the opposite ear, he hears, "Do not go. I am Giovan Francesco Pico."
Oh!
And he turns around, there's nobody there.
So the ghosts of her murder victims are dragging themselves from beyond the grave to be like, don't do it.
Uh-huh.
Great. This is a good sign.
He sees in a little alcove on his way to the church, or on his way to the courtyard where the statue is, there's like another little statue of like a guy with a beard, except it looks like the statue is kind of bleeding. And when he turns away to look away from the statue, he hears a whisper saying, "Do not obey her. Return home. I am Marc Antonio Frangipani. We didn't talk about him, but he's another guy that she stabbed to death. It's fine.
Spiridion.
So
the ghosts themselves are telling you not to listen to the other ghost.
Yeah, 3 or 4 times. All of these dudes are like, "Man, stop, please!" Like one of them, like ghost grabs him, and he's like, "No, I have to do it." Okay. So yeah, he's like out here fighting ghosts for his anime girlfriend.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Nice. I grew up with Danny Phantom, so it's we were all horny for different ghosts. So I'll give him this one, Mr. Spiridion. We've all been horny for a ghost before, but that's all you get. That
is true. That was the theme of one of the other Halloween episodes, actually.
Amazing.
It was all about ghost boners.
Amazing.
Well, having boners for ghosts.
So he makes it to the statue. Guess who the statue's of?
One of her dead husbands.
It is Robert II, the priest.
Oh!
The only man that she
nemesis.
Didn't overcome. Her nemesis.
Her gay nemesis.
And our dear idiot Spiridion, I hurried on. I did it. I cut open the bronze. I sawed it into a wider gash. I tore out the silver image and hacked it into innumerable pieces. As I scattered the last fragments about, the moon was suddenly veiled. A great wind arose, howling down the square. It seemed to me that the earth shook. I threw down the hatchet and the saw and fled home. I felt pursued as if by the tramp of hundreds of invisible horsemen.
Oh no!
Oh no! And the last entry in the diary of Spiridion Trepka is, "Now I am calm. It is midnight. Another moment and she will be here. Patience, my heart. I hear it beating loud. I trust that no one will accuse poor Sor Asjubale, his landlord. I will write a letter to the authorities to declare his innocence should anything happen. 1. The clock in the palace tower has just struck." And then in quotes here, it's on like a side part of his diary. "I hereby certify that, should anything happen this night to me, Spiridion Trepka, no one but myself is to be held." And then that passage cuts off. "A step on the staircase. It is she, at last. Medea, Medea." Note: here ends the diary of the late Spiridion Trepka. The chief newspapers of the province of Umbria informed the public that, on Christmas morning of the year 1885, the bronze equestrian statue of Robert II had been found grievously mutilated, and that Professor Spiridion Trepka of Posen in the German Empire had been discovered dead of a stab in the region of the heart given by an unknown hand.
Ooh.
What a dumbass.
That was frightening, though. Like the last diary entry, just like, oh no, buddy.
Oh, you poor idiot.
Oh, you stupid man.
So this ambitious family births a succubus, who's very successful. Finally, a gay man kills her. And then some bookish idiot digs up her stuff, falls in love with her all again, and the story ends there. Hopefully, that's the end of it.
She's been set loose now.
She lives on as a ghost. So. Now we get to talk about what it all means.
What a tale.
What a tale. What a tale.
What a narrative.
What a narrative.
What a ghost.
What a ghost. I looked first for kind of the origins of like the femme fatale archetype. A lot of it is attributed to like 1920s French stuff.
Yeah. We love a poisonous woman narrative. You know what I mean? I mentioned it earlier, but like Rappaccini's daughter very much is like on this wavelength.
I love Rappaccini with like a meat sauce.
It's a story we like to tell. I always find it especially interesting though when it's in fiction written by a woman, because it tends to be a little bit more dimensional than when a man writes a spooky lady story.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Given that, it's odd that since this was written by a woman, I would expect our gal Medea to be a little more sympathetic, but she's pretty one-dimensionally.
She's a monster.
Power-hungry monster.
But she is a monster who is a monster because of the society she's in, right? I mean, I think it seems pretty clear from the narrative that she was raised to be a monster.
being betrothed to an adult man when you're 12 years old would probably do that to you, yeah.
Well, but also, I mean, I feel like part of the implication is that these women were being raised to be no less bloodthirsty than the men, but to be bloodthirsty in very particular ways in this sort of period of in Italy where there's so much jockeying. I mean, like you said, that's where we get like Lucrezia Borgia and all of these women who were sort of the women behind the men who were doing all of these machinations and political power plays and poisoning people and all kinds of stuff.
I could totally see this as, given that Vernon Lee was an authority of Italian Renaissance, big Italy nerd.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, why weren't women more the cause for these city-states bickering? What if it was spooky?
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe she just wanted to write her own Italian Renaissance villainess.
I love it.
So we have a corkboard full of pins.
Yes, we do.
Would you like to tell me about some of those pins?
So, the first direct reference to inspiration is Robert II comparing her to the sirens.
Mm-hmm.
And then mentioning Ulysses.
Yeah.
And then we have the three daughters with their scissors and thread. This was very obviously Greek mythology inspired.
So, I mean, she is a succubus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the conclusion I came to. It was like, oh, this is a succubus. This woman is a succubus, and that's dope.
So do we think then that Lee was implying sort of within the universe of the story that her family set her loose as a succubus intentionally? That they summoned or created her and turned her loose for their own political gain, only to find out that they couldn't control her as well as they had hoped?
That would be a fun reading. And I am unsure if there is any evidence for that. The motives of her family and even her ambitions are not really touched on.
She's a demon who's been set loose by the petty conflicts of feudal Italy.
And now we're going to follow that little red yarn to our overwhelming emotion as a theme of Italian media, as an existential part of being Italian, right? Emotion.
Sure.
Lots of emotion.
Is this Vernon Lee just subtweeting all of Italy for being too emotional because she's a buttoned up English person? Yes,
but out of adoration.
Oh, like, so, God, I wish.
So Vernon Lee wrote, what she's actually most known for is her essays about travel in France, Italy, and Germany. And it's less like a travel guide and more an essay trying to give you, the reader, an impression of what it feels like to travel to these places.
Oh, cool.
And so I think she can't stop doing that. And so her ghost stories are also like, this is an Italian f***ing ghost story. Everybody is full of emotion. That is what it is like to be a ghost in Italy.
It's me,
a
ghost.
So, I'm stealing this straight from Wikipedia here. She was known for her numerous essays about travel in Italy, France, Germany, and Switzerland, which attempted to capture the psychological effects of places rather than to convey any particular piece of information.
It's interesting then that he's German, right? You said he was Polish, but came from, was living in Germany.
Mm-hmm. He was a German professor.
And the Germans were known even then for being very sort of buttoned up and very serious, a little rigid. The same way that the British are extraordinarily reserved, and that he's being swept away by Italy writ large in addition to this sexy Italian ghost
in the form of a 300-year-old succubus.
It makes me wonder too, there's kind of a big idea being worked out on the page here, right? Both from kind of a cathartic angle and an exploratory angle. If you think of this as a story written by a person from a culture that is extremely disapproving of big displays of emotion and extremely repressive, Medea is kind of as seductive a concept as she is a frightening one, right? Because it's all impulse. I want that, I'm going to take it. I want that, I'm going to take it. I'm going to have sex with this man and then I'm going to murder him. Like, these are all big feelings, big impulses that are just being completely unchecked.
That's Italy, baby. Let's go.
Which does, from a modern perspective, kind of loop all the way around to being weirdly one note and condescending. But I can see how from Vernon Lee's perspective, it's just like, God, can you imagine? Can you imagine being that horny and bloodthirsty and impulsive?
Yeah.
My God.
Damn, wish I was her for real.
I wish I could murder my husband.
I wonder if even that's a little bit, you know, inspirationally autobiographical of like, I wish I could inspire this kind of emotion in other people.
Yeah, well, I mean,
even if they're stupid f***ing men.
Who isn't kind of tempted by the idea of being a figure of that level of adoration? Like, it's very frightening when it actually happens, but
it's just stalking.
Yeah, it's awful when it actually happens, but there's an appeal to it, right? Like, there's a reason. That's one of those archetypes we kind of return to over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Well, it makes it a ghost story that this woman is dead, right? But I also like that she's, 300 or 400 years old as a representation of like an obsession with history.
Yeah.
There's a reason our protagonist is a nerdy old professor. I think I love this old archaic word. He's literally described as a dry as dust.
Oh, buddy.
Which just means an old dude obsessed with books.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love. I love. What a silly. It's not even a portmanteau. It's just a bunch of words put together. He's just, and I think Vernon probably might have been too with Italian Renaissance, is just obsessed with old stuff.
Well, and that adds such a dimensionality to it, because in that way, especially knowing that he's like older, Medea is kind of a representation of like the great discovery he's probably never going to make and that he's going to die in pursuit of, right?
Historians just searching for like an ounce of just like something interesting.
Or, specifically something that will bring them recognition and a place in the literature, in the scholarship.
Boy, do I have the succubus for you.
That would get you noticed. Well, and interestingly, too, he winds up destroying history in pursuit of history.
Mm-hmm. He burns a bunch of letters, f***s up a statue.
Yeah.
He tears up the painting that he finds of this woman.
He's
out of strange lust.
He's so single-minded in his pursuit of it that he winds up undermining the field writ large.
He busts all over the letter that she supposedly wrote him. It's just wild stuff.
Well, buddy, anything else you really want to touch on about this story?
No, it's pretty short. Go read it yourself. It's available for free on the internet, as is all of Vernon Lee's work, I believe, can be found for free.
A lot of her stuff is out there.
I don't know who would benefit if we were to pay for it at this point.
Who knows?
Yeah, go look it up instead of reading. We've talked about old racist people enough. But yeah, good story.
What did you think of it? How did you feel about it? What made you bring it to me? How did you connect to it?
The inspirations go way back to Greek myth. I mean, it's by name referenced in the story several times, but this is the earliest example that I have found of that trope within something that is like horror on purpose rather than like a morality tale.
Oh, like
a cautionary thing.
Invoking the Greek myth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like, careful what you wish for. It's just like, here is this trope in a spooky story, and it's cool. Yeah. So, I like that.
Well, I feel like Odysseus, the Odyssey in a general sense. Or no, it's Ulysses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the sort of great figures of the old Greek quest stories have long been beloved of academics specifically, because they like to think of themselves on these sort of sweeping, they like to think of themselves as being on these sort of sweeping quests for knowledge, and they like to envision it as being very heroic. And because our sort of modern conception of academia traces back to the Greeks and the Greek style of the whole collegiate system has its roots in the medieval understanding of what the Greeks were doing. And so it's very fitting both for the narrator being an academic and for Vernon Lee, who is also a nerd and an academic. Those threads make a lot of sense in there. And they add a really nice tweedy element to this story that kind of makes me giggle because that's so in vogue right now. Like, I can think of half a dozen horror series, both on the page and on the screen, that are like very tweedy, academic, you know, lots of elbow patches and people being like, I may be a vampire, but I'm also a professor.
God.
It's very in right now. So like I could very much see.
You know what the opposite of that is? Have you seen Grotesquerie?
No, but I've heard about it.
I think it's on Hulu. It's from the dude who does American Horror Story.
Oh.
And it's so bad. Oh my fucking God, it's so bad. You know what I hate more than anything in on-screen entertainment? A, being treated like I'm an idiot, and B, expositional dialogue between two characters who would have no reason to ever explain those things to each other. Oh my God, it drives me insane.
I feel like this is a bad time for you.
It is such a bad time for me.
I rewatched something recently and was like, wow, I forgot how clunky the dialogue in this show is.
God. Screen cuts in, oh, hello, Grace, who I'm currently recording a podcast with in the city in which we live. And I'm this age and you're that age. And oh my fucking God,
the best.
It makes me want to kill people.
All right.
As if inspired by a centuries old ghost.
Well, William, thanks so much for joining us.
It's such an honor to have me.
Happy Halloween to me.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here for our spooky season ghost story marathon. And in the meantime, if you can, this week, this month, this pay period, consider supporting a living author or academic so that they don't resurrect any succubi, because they could really use the love. Bye.
100% more spooky. Let's go!
Didn't Read It was created, written, recorded, and edited by me, Grace Todd. You can follow the show on Instagram or Twitter @didntreadit.
Our theme song is Books, written, performed, and recorded by William Albritton.
For sources cited and a full list of episodes, you can visit us at didntreaditpod.com.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review. It makes a big difference, and we appreciate it immensely.
If you did not enjoy the show, we are accepting applications for a full-time nemesis at didntreaditpod@gmail.com. Special thanks to Black Iris Social Club in Richmond, Virginia, and to Pesca Trio Publishing.